Called City Council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaini.
Here.
Lamore.
Excused.
Felder.
Here.
Whitman.
Here.
Icoangeli.
Here.
Vining.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here, I'd ask we all please rise for the invocation. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We are grateful for the great resources of this land and our community, and for the freedom which has been its heritage. Inspire us to serve with fairness, humility, and integrity, and to work for the welfare of this community and all of its citizens.
Pledge allegiance. Clerk, first item, please.
The first item on the agenda is the section where we have the opportunity to amend the agenda.
Any amendments for the agenda from administration or council? Nope. Seeing none, we'll pull that item later during the consent agenda. Seeing none, next item, please.
The next item is citizen comments not related to an agenda item.
Thank you. Are there any comments from those present here this evening not related to an agenda item? Comments that wish to be made that may not appear on the agenda currently? Any comments from those present here this evening? Seeing none, next item, please.
The next item is public hearings. Item number 1970, public hearing to receive and review comments on proposed ordinance number 18-001, an ordinance to add to the Historic Overlay District to Chapter 720 zoning of the Code of the City of Monroe.
Thank you. If you've seen the agenda or picked one up at the entrance, there's two public hearings this evening, then there's council action that'll follow later by council. But at this point, I'm going to start by opening the public hearing on item 1970 to receive and review comments relating to proposed ordinance number 18-001, ordinance to add a historic overlay district to Chapter 720 Code of the City of Monroe. Any comments from those present here this evening? Public comments? Yes, sir. Name and address. Your comment, please.
Yes, my name is Barry Egan. I live at 405 Washington Street in Monroe, and I'm present chair of the Historic District Commission. I'm sorry, and I just wanted to thank you for letting me speak here tonight to you. And with that, I would like you all to review this overlay, and I would like you to consider it, and I'd like you to approve it. Because I believe this will go a long way in preserving the heritage that is Monroe, and also to save some of our older homes, because some of them are going away so fast that it's becoming a bit tragic. So please consider and approve this overlay district for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Other comments from those present here this evening regarding public hearing on item 1970? Other comments from those present here this evening? No. Okay. Yes, sir.
Harold Caldwell, 250 Gulfview Way, Monroe, Michigan. When you consider this, you have to look at it. When you have an older home, you're a caretaker. Same as if you're an elected or an appointed official. I mean, you're the caretaker for your community. And with property, you're a caretaker for that, because you're just there just a finite amount of time, the same as an elected official. And when your structures and how your community looks defines your community. I mean, so we really want to preserve our look and be able to market ourselves. I mean, that's one of the aspects we'd have to really have. I mean, because if you go into communities, like, what makes it, like, neat when you want to see the structures and things like that? And I think if you approve this, it'll go a long way of helping that. Because it defines a character, defines, like, who we are. I think it'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Harold. Other comments from those present here this evening regarding this public hearing on item 1970, the Historic Overlay District? Yes. Name and address, please.
Chris Cull, 519 Godfroy, Monroe, Michigan. Back in 1979, when Mr. Icoangeli was in charge of the Community Development Department, I was a graduate student at Colorado State University, and I came for that summer. I came home and worked on the historic district survey they did, historic building survey they did. And since then, they've had these little weird, to me, historic districts. This house is one, that house is one. You know, I'm hoping this will help kind of solidify and make it more neighborhoods and not just these, you know, scattered ones, you know. And I mean, 1979 till 2018 is quite a few years, but I'm glad something is finally, hopefully, going to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Other comments from those present here this evening? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
My name's Andy Sabish. Address is 217 South Macomb Street. I'm fairly new to the area. We moved here just under 2 years ago, and one of the things that attracted me to Monroe is the old homes. We've got one of the 1840s homes right up the street here. You know, I'm on the Historic District Commission with Jeff Green, and you know, I'm a firm believer in as you've heard say, the characters of the home dictate the character of the town. The one thing I would urge you, though, is like I said, again, it's very hard to figure out what is the historic district. You know, one house, two houses down, there's another house. So an overlay really, you know, comes into play. I've lived in old homes in New Jersey, in South Carolina and Georgia, and having districts versus single homes makes it easier to enforce. And you'll find that as one house gets renovated, it kind of cascades down the street. So I think overlays are a great thing, but enforcement has to go along with it. I mean, we've had a couple of examples recently where you've got older homes that were torn down before it went before the board, could have been saved, or homes that are modified and then they come in after the fact looking for approval. So I think if you do have an overlay, there needs to be some teeth that goes behind it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Other comments from those present here this evening regarding this public hearing? Seeing no further comments, I'll close the public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item number 1982, public hearing to receive and review comments on proposed ordinance number 18-002 and ordinance to amend sections 525-1 and 525-2 of property maintenance of the Code of the City of Monroe.
So at this time, I'll open the public hearing on item 1982, ordinance to amend sections regarding to the property maintenance code of the City of Monroe. Any comments from those present here this evening regarding this item in this public hearing? Any comments this evening on this? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 1970, proposed ordinance number 18-001 up for its final reading.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that proposed ordinance 18-001, an ordinance to add historic overlay district to the zoning code, be placed on the floor for its final reading.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Michelangeli, supported by Councilwoman Germaini, that item 1970 be placed on the floor for its final reading. Thank you.
Councilperson Germaini?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to read it afterwards.
Oh, well, we have to vote to put it on the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Go ahead.
okay.
I apologize.
That's okay. Councilperson Germaini?
Yes.
Lamore? I'm sorry, he's excused. Felder?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Michelangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Ordinance 18-001, an ordinance to add the historic overlay district to Chapter 720 zoning of the Code of the City of Monroe. The City of Monroe ordains.
Before we vote, I want to see if there's any comments from council regarding this. I know we had public comments. If there's any comments from council, I know last meeting we asked if make sure it was reviewed. I'm going to make a brief comment because I first want to thank the committee. There's a couple of the committee members that are here, as well as the councilman Michelangelo and myself and staff that was there. I appreciate the time and effort on this. I know we're still going through some of the mapping, but at least for this part of it to move forward. It's something that, as we talk through many details, and overall, I think it's what the path we should be going on when you talk about a historic overlay. While I had one part of that I did not support, I was in the minority on that, And I only ask that as we move this forward, if it passes, that we be aware of any, I guess, follow-up that comes up as you establish an ordinance such as this, that we be mindful as if there's calls or issues that come up, that we revisit that. I think that there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of drafts that were done, and I really appreciate the detail. I mean, trying to decide, side fence arraignments, front yard fencing, which was the item that I had concerns with, not being permissible. I think there was something in between, but this is the way it is, and I think this will be better for the city as we move forward for the reasons that were stated by those that were present here, reasons as it were stated by the members of the committee. So I just want to say thank you for the work overall. Other comments from council? There's no other comments. There's a motion and a second. It's read by the clerk. And shall this ordinance pass? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Icoangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item is item number 1982, proposed ordinance number 18-002, an ordinance to amend section 525 and 525-2 of chapter 525, up for its final reading.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that ordinance number 1802, an ordinance to amend section 525-1, 525-2 of chapter 525, property maintenance, be placed on the floor for its final reading.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Icoangeli, supported by Councilwoman Whitman on item 1982, to be placed on the floor for its final reading. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Icoangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Ordinance 18-002, Chapter 525, Property Maintenance. An ordinance to amend Sections 525-1 and 525-2 of Chapter 525, Property Maintenance of the Code of the City of Monroe. The City of Monroe ordains.
Thank you. Any comments from council? No. Well, again, appreciate the staff's work on this particular item and the administration. I think one of the important parts is at the conclusion of this, when it talks about stopping work that was started without authority, and to make sure we don't have things that are done in an inappropriate fashion and then have to figure out how to get that back on track. So I think this really helps on the property maintenance codes. Other comments? Shall this ordinance pass?
Councilperson Germaine?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Icoangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item, please.
Is communication from the Assistant City Manager Finance Director submitting proposed ordinance 18-003, an ordinance to adopt the budget ordinance fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019 for the City of Monroe. Proposed ordinance number 18-003 up for its first reading and recommending the second reading and public hearing be set for Monday, April 16th, 2018.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that proposed ordinance 18-003 regarding the budget be placed on the floor for its first reading and recommend the second reading and public hearing be set for Monday, April 16th, 2018.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Icoangeli, supported by Councilwoman Whitman. Item 1985 be placed on the floor for its first reading, and the second reading public hearing be set for Monday, April 16th, 2018. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Icoangeli?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Ordinance 18-003, Budget Appropriation Act, July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. An ordinance to approve the budget for the City of Monroe for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019.
I'm just going to make a comment here because there may be some that may be here because the budget process is starting. And just so if you didn't understand, and for those also watching, the first reading was read. The second reading comes up in the public hearing for opportunities for comments and input. I know that council may have some comments later as well, but we'll move forward with the agenda at this time. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is the consent agenda, and for approval of payments, item B, the amount should read $350,072.03, 350072.03.
Thank you. Are there any items on the consent agenda that council wishes to have pulled for further discussion?
Yes.
Councilwoman Germaine, item?
Item number 1996, proposed agreement between the City of Monroe and County of Monroe, special waiver and indemnification.
Other items on the consent agenda council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Seeing none, are there any items on the consent agenda those present here this evening wish to have pulled for further discussion? Opportunities you may want to make comment before the vote of the council. If not pulled, it'll may move forward on the consent agenda. Any items on the consent agenda anybody here wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Your Honor, I motion that we accept all items on the consent agenda.
One pulled.
Except for the one poll.
Thank you.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilwoman Whitman, that all items on the consent agenda not pulled for further discussion, recommendations be carried out and resolutions adopted. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes?
Whitman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli,
Yes.
Vining, Mayor Clark.
Yes. Clerk, next item, please. Or, I'm sorry. Yeah, item next, please.
The next item is item 1996, proposed agreement between the City of Monroe and County of Monroe, special waiver and indemnification.
Thank you. Councilwoman Germaine.
I'm going to refer to Mr. Buds to make
Okay.
comment on this, please.
Thanks. And just for clarity for those here, we had a work session, and there was some discussion at the work session, and I think it's important that it get reviewed at the council meeting as well, for those that weren't at the work session or may not watch that on Impact, because there was a minor adjustment to that proposal that I think is important to be known, and publicly we pull that item so we talk about it, so you wonder, it may be different than what you may have read online. Mr. Buds.
Your Honor and Council, as we mentioned during the work session, the agenda item is an agreement between the city and the county, the City of Monroe and the County of Monroe for the provision of emergency water under certain terms and conditions. There is also a special indemnification agreement and waiver in the event that the City of Monroe would ever elect to use emergency water from the South County water system, which in turn comes from the City of Toledo's water system. In the agenda packet, there was a draft of that agreement, and there was one change that came through the county's legal counsel. It's in the fourth whereas paragraph, which in the past draft stated that the City of Toledo, Ohio, has stated that in addition to the new amendment to the January 5, 2011 County and City of Toledo, Ohio water agreement, it is also necessary that a new agreement between the city and county is needed. That's been replaced in the current draft with a fourth whereas clause, which now reads, whereas the city and the county desire to enter into a new agreement between the city and county relating to emergency water between them. And I don't believe that makes a substantive change to the agreement, and otherwise, I have no issue other than those that we described during the work session.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from council? None? Okay. So a motion would be in order if there's no further discussion.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that the agreement between the City of Monroe and the County of Monroe be approved, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign on behalf of the city.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Michaelangeli, supported by, excuse me, Councilwoman Whitman. Item 1996 be accepted, placed on file, and recommendation carried out. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Whitman,
Yes.
Michaelangeli.
Yes.
Vining. Mayor Clark.
Yes. Next item, please.
I have no further items, Your Honor.
Further items, we are in April, and so we start with Councilwoman Germaine. Council comments.
No comments tonight, Your Honor.
Right. Councilman Felder.
Yes, just a few. First of all, I love the attendance, both at the work session and at the council meeting. It's really wonderful to see the community participating in the process. John Patterson recently passed away and has done a tremendous amount for this community. Been very involved, and I would just like to make a comment here in his memory, and that we be aware that the amphitheater in St. Mary's Park, I believe, remains unnamed at this moment. Just a comment. And then prayers with the Beneteau family at this time. So that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Whitman.
I have no comments.
Councilman Michelangelo.
Yeah, Your Honor, just a couple comments. One is, went through all of the budget information that was provided by the manager and by Mr. Sell, and noticed that we are still trying to maintain a pretty reasonable fund balance for next year, and plus the projections for FY19 and 20 and 21. The fund balance of around 19 to 18%, and then when you add in the budget stabilization, we're close to 30%, which I think is still pretty remarkable based on what we're looking at relative to a declining tax base from Detroit Edison. A couple of comments that I had, and I just wanted to ask this of Ed, and he can get with me later, is that under the new fee schedule for rental inspection fees, we're going from $75 to $100. I know that in a presentation about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, the city administration said that the general fund was actually subsidizing the rental inspection program in the amount of maybe $23,000 or $29,000. I can't remember the exact number, but it was in the 20s. And I'm wondering if that $100, that $25 increase is going to make up that difference. Because I really do think that the rental inspection program should be self-sufficient and not require any general fund subsidy. The other question that I had, Your Honor, was that I just want to make sure that the fund balance in the refuse collection doesn't go, I see it dipping 3 years out. It's going to dip below $100,000. I would really like to keep it, personally keep it at 100 or a little bit above to give us that cushion that we need based on bidding when the contract is up. And then lastly, and like I said, Ed, you can provide this information during the public meeting. I know that the city of Monroe, based on the millage, contributes about $800,000 to $900,000 a year to the library system, based on our tax base. So I was wondering why I saw that we provide a grant to the Monroe County Library System for $57,500 when the city of Monroe is one of the biggest contributors tax-wise to the library system. So that's a question that you can get back on at the public meeting. The other comment that I have, Your Honor, I guess it refers back to the workshop session that we had with ALCC. The city manager is recommending a $70,000 decrease, about half of their budget. We usually give them $140,000. Hopefully at the work session next Monday, we can talk about maybe having some type of an approach where we reduce the program funding over the next 3 years rather than giving them a 50% hit. But it does have to come with some stipulations. One, we do not have, I don't think, a current lease with ALCC. Two, I have served, this is my third term as council. I had one term as mayor. I had yet to ever receive a report from ALCC regarding their finances or their program statistics. We had a presentation this evening by the RSVP program, and Joe every year for the last couple of years comes and he provides us a detailed accounting of all of the volunteer hours, all the programs, and all the people that they provide services to, and yet we have never received a report such as that from ALCC. And I'm all about transparency, but transparency is also accountability. In order to be transparent, you also have to be accountable. And I think when we're dealing with taxpayers' money in an environment where we're going to have to really watch what we spend, it's going to be incumbent upon any nonprofit, as far as I'm concerned, that we give money to, that they have to provide data in terms of who they're serving, when they're serving it, and what those numbers are, and what their budgets are. Because if they don't, they're not going to get my vote in the future. I'm willing to to kind of think about this now that it's been presented by the city manager, and their board members were here asking for reconsideration. I'm interested in obviously reconsidering. I think 50% cut in 1 year is too significant. I know that the manager wanted this is kind of a shock and awe technique to kind of get them to start thinking that as a nonprofit they need to do fundraising, which they don't really do a lot of. And I think they have to start really adhering to their strategic plan that we helped them develop last year and take it seriously. So I hope that during the budget discussion, we can talk seriously about ALCC, but like I said, I think it needs to come with some strings relative to getting copies of their budget on a monthly basis and seeing what their program requirements are. And I don't think I've ever seen an audited statement from them, ever, in terms of a financial audit at year's end. Now, we do get financial information and we get program detailed information from the Women's Center. Mrs. Micka, and the treasurer regularly appear at council and they give us a report. So we know what their revenues are, what their expenses are, and we know how many people are using the facility. And I think ALCC needs to do the same. So those are my comments, Your Honor.
Councilwoman Vining.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Of course, I wanted to speak about ALCC as well. I agree with John that 50% cut would be absolutely detrimental to the community center. I do understand the city has fiscal responsibilities and we're going through some things with DTE, so I understand the proactive approach that the city manager is taking, but it will be, I would think, I don't even know how they could continue to operate with the 50% cut. I can't see it in the budget, the money I'm looking at. I don't know how we would be able to continue to operate. So I would like to request some type of, if we're going to cut it, some type of phasing out instead of an immediate 50% cut, or maybe a much less significant amount. If we could consider that as a council. I also agree with everything that John has to say about the reporting. We do receive a year-end audit every year, so that's just a matter of forwarding that information to the city. I think the strategic plan is crucial. So I know there's things that need to be done as a board and a staff to be more accountable, be more transparent. George Barrett was here with the finances that shows down to the penny what we do with the city's money, and I think that we need to do that on a more regular basis, as John suggested. But in that report that George Barrett gave, you can see that quite a significant amount of the money that the city allocates goes back into keeping the city's, keeping the building, the guts of the building, the boiler, the HVAC system, the elevator. There's certifications that have to be done every year. Utilities. So I think negotiating that lease is crucial, but a lot of that money goes back into the building. And I think we need to consider that fact. And hopefully the city manager stated that he's willing to come up off of that number, and I hope the council would be willing to do the same. I mean, it would be absolute. I just cannot see how we would be able to operate. And, you know, the ALCC is in our, one of our council goals and objectives for 2018 and 19. And I don't have it right in front of me, but it reads something to the effect of figuring out how we can expand on the community center and develop programming at the community center. So with the 50% cut, that goal, I don't see that it will be met. So again, I just hope we can reconsider this before we pass this budget. Thank you, Your Honor. That's all I have.
Thank you. I guess it's me. I have a few comments. I'll try not to repeat everything, but I was on my list as well. Some of the discussions from the work session at ALCC. I'm not going to start there, though. One of the items that was on tonight's council and was passed through the consent agenda, and that public hearings will be set for April 16th, all had to do with delinquent invoices. And every year we go through this, and every year we put this on for public meetings. So our next regular meeting, which is in 2 weeks, regarding delinquent invoices on snow removal, blight or boarded up invoices, weed and grass, and rental housing. And my message here is those that may be here or those that may be listening, if your name appears on that list, you would have been notified through the clerk's office already. There's opportunities to resolve those outstanding, I'll say, debt and invoices by going to the clerk's office prior to the 2 weeks and get it resolved. That's my first comment. I know the clerk may have some additional comments, so I won't say too much on it, other than refer you to the clerk treasurer's office. But it's interesting, each year also then in 2 weeks, there'll be somebody here talking about a grass cutting bill they got last July and why the grass wasn't too high, but won't have documentation or record for that. And here at the staff, we do record that and photograph and have that. But my main reason for bringing this up is it passes on the consent agenda, people show up in 2 weeks, and there's opportunity now to resolve it for these outstanding invoices for the cost to have that work done by a third party. So I hope that those that appear on that list and receive their invoices or letters contact the clerk treasurer's office. So again, reminder that the next meeting also, April 16th, the other public hearing will be held regarding the budget proposal. It's been talked about here already. It was passed on the first reading. The second reading and public hearing will be in 2 weeks. If there are items within the budget presentation that the residents and others wish to come comment to, that is the meeting to be at as well. Before I speak about the LCC, however, regarding the budget, and I think there's much that we still have opportunities to have discussion on. Speaking with the city manager, there will be a council work session scheduled for next Monday, April 9th, 6 p.m. in the third floor conference room. There'll be another official meeting here with the Planning Commission in the council chambers. But we're going to have a work session to discuss one particular area within the budget that brought some comments in previous sessions, and specifically regarding the public safety. So there will be discussion on that. Councilman Michelangelo has asked me for some information to come back regarding the ALCC, and I think there'll be an opportunity to provide that information so council will have that as well before we get into the final review of the budget and potential passing at the April 16th meeting. By city charter, the budget must be adopted by the end of April, so it's possible, and this happened in the past, where the third meeting that's not resolved and it's not moving forward, there's still opportunity afterwards. I'm not saying that because I anticipate that to occur. I'm saying it only because the things that come up, the comments made. But I am interested in getting to some of the details and some of the proposals regarding public safety, but also a broader discussion regarding that and how we deliver both fire, police, and medical response and other associated service costs that we have there. So regarding the ALCC, we had a work session. There were several proposals or several presentations on that. I think that, and I think the administration has a start point, which was presented with a 50% reduction. I think there's been discussion already that will take some things into consideration, but we'll see how that moves forward. I think having a slide toward that, we all know what our future is going to be, and potential future may be regarding revenues in the DTE property, but we have to be prepared now. We can't wait to see what that's going to be, and that's why the proposals are the way they are, and the reductions in set-aside funding that we're looking at. I think there's some comments that were made, presented regarding the ALCC. So about 2 years ago, we started a process with them, the council that was here, and about a year ago, they did complete that to where some revisions to some policies and bylaws. But one of those items that's necessary and was already mentioned, we have other organizations that manage facilities, and they do present those reports, which we don't have at this point, including the audit statement, I think, which is beneficial, and I understand was recently done. So I look forward to seeing those, and hopefully council will have a chance to review those before we make a final decision on that particular budget item and initial proposal. The strategic planning is critically important to where we're going to go and how we're going to provide service at the ALCC. One of the items that's come up in discussion here in the council and work sessions and other topics was how do we find partners that also might help provide management that. Councilman Vining had mentioned about expenditures, but as you go through that amount that was presented by Mr. Barrett, it talked about the amount that was health benefits or wages, and for 3 persons, you're talking that totals almost $140,000 right there is what he said. But working from a notepad versus seeing the actual numbers in the report is really what we should be making our decisions on. There were some other things. There was a boiler that was a cost. That was a facility. That was about $5,000. So while that we've, as a city, over the years have put a significant amount of revenue in ensuring that the Arthur Lezo Community Center continues to operate and the building be sound, and renovations that were done, there's still ways to go. So I'm only making this up, bringing all these comments up because the amount is significant, but we also have significant costs and reductions in other areas in the budget. So just looking at Mr. Pastu from the comments that are said, I know you have your notes, some items that may come back to us to help us review how we move forward with the community center. But I am also open to looking at partners and opportunities of how not only it's operationally run, but also administratively managed, and if there's ways we can be as effective and as efficient with the monies and revenues that we have available. So I'll look forward to that discussion as well. Let's see if I have last thing. There was one more item. Give me a second. It's a piece of paper. Our last council meeting, there was a comment made by the public that was shared regarding port operations and red flags, as was said, regarding proposed property that would be developed out at the port, and the concern raised by the resident was in relation to that it was, my thought here. The proposed development was surveyed within wetlands, and that the development would be brought on wetlands, and that was what was said at the meeting. Well, that's not factual, as it's turned out. Following the council meeting, there was a Port Commission meeting. This item came up for discussion there. The same resident that was here raising these red flags has learned that the property he was referring to is not the property that in which the proposed development will operate on. So I just want to make that for clarification at this meeting, because when you have a public comment that comes forward, it's important that we verify that and the opportunity to also publicly state if it's not correct, so there aren't those that are thinking the port is operating in a fashion in planning to do development on wetlands. That is not the case, as was stated, so I just want to make that clarification here today. And I think I would just want to thank Mr. Grifka for his presentation also, because as we move into here this week on National Service Recognition Day and the RSVP and the wonderful work that seniors do and support they give to our community and the communities in the county as a whole. With that, I'll stop. Clerk Treasurer Lavoy, comments, please.
Just echoing what you said, the treasurer's office is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. We do not close for lunch. We stay open, recognizing residents need to be able to make their payments sometimes on their lunch hour. So we're open all day. If you would like to come in and try to resolve the delinquent issues that were the resolutions that were passed this evening, please come in. We have a drop box located for your convenience just off the sidewalk in the City Hall parking lot, and that's checked twice a day. So if you place it in the morning or in the evening, it will be swept for any payments that are in there, and they will be processed. I would ask that you you look for your letter if you're on the list. We don't send the letters out until council takes action, which they did this evening. So those letters should be arriving in a day or two, if the mail is cooperating. And but if you have specific issues about why you got the invoice, you probably should stop first at the department that oversees it. So for instance, if it's a building issue, you would want to go to the building department first. If you come to our counter and wanted to discuss it, we don't actually assess the invoice. We just collect the payments, and we would have to send you to another department. So just trying to save you a little time up front. But we'll be glad to assist you. Give us a call if you have any questions. And other than that, I just want to remind everyone, if you want to participate in the May election, you need to register to vote. That time is ticking down here in the next couple of weeks. And that's all.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Clerk Treasurer. Just as a follow-up, and those letters will be going out, thank you for clarifying that, but in today's council packet, and it is available online, it does list those property identifiers as well as persons' names of those that have some outstanding invoices. If you recall, you may have received something over the past year. You may want to go look at that or wait for the letter and then move forward. So with that, Mr. Pastu, any comments?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just one item. We're ongoing with our recycling bin rollout. It's had a couple of bumps here and there along the way. We've received some calls where property owners didn't receive a bin when they wanted one, some that have received it when they didn't. And so we're continuing to work with Waste Management to ensure that the residents that do wish to have those ultimately get that, and then working in one case with a homeowners association to handle the distribution there as well. If you have any issues with it, I would encourage residents to contact the Department of Public Services, 384-9125. They're maintaining an ongoing list to try and remedy those. I think Mr. Lewis this afternoon said we're making some progress with it, but hopefully here in another week or so we'll be having them fully implemented, functioning the way we had hoped and desired. So again, 9125, 384-9125 to the DPS office.
Thank you, Mr. Pastu. Any comments from those present here this evening? Citizens' comments. Any comments from those present? Last opportunity for today. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
I'm Chris Slatt, 33 East Front. I'm here to talk about the ALCC. I wasn't here for the work session, so I don't exactly know the present status of the conversation. And obviously, you have to make budget cuts, and I appreciate that's a hard job. And whatever you cut, you're going to have someone here at the podium telling you you're cutting the wrong thing. That being said, and as some of you have already said, I think a 50% cut is a disproportionate cut, and what bothers me about it is it's a disproportionate cut. My attitude is when you have to make cuts, you should make them as far away from possible as you can from the most vulnerable people in your community. And the ALCC is an organization that does a lot of good stuff, primarily for children, lower income families, and people of color. And so I think that at most, you should cut their budget proportionately to the decrease in revenue that's coming in. If you look for contrast, downtown, mostly owned by like 6 people, and they get a lot of what they ask for, right? I would rather see some austerity across the board before taking a 50% cut to the ALCC, which does a lot of good work, and I think is one of the a very good symbol in a part of town that doesn't seem to get a lot of love from the city at times. And like I said, I wasn't at the work session. I don't know the status of the conversation. But if there's questions about their bookkeeping or their financials, I would hope that those were brought up in the work session with the leadership of the ALCC, where they could answer those innuendos rather than a city council meeting in the context of a budget conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from those present here this evening? Other comments? Yes.
Hi, my name's Johanna Hall. I live in 708 Rossler, and I'm here to talk about the center and cutting half of their budget. I understand, like, it's not, it's, you're cutting half of it. I mean, not cutting, but like you thinking about it, taking it into consideration. But that's a lot. Like 50%, like that's half of it. That's a lot. Like I could understand like maybe 10 or 20, but not 50 in 1 year. That's if you like cut that, that's taking away from like the workers. So they'd probably have to cut the workers' paycheck and stuff like that. And I think that if you were to consider it, maybe if they were to come and like show you their status of like how much what they use for it, what they're using the money for, if they were to come and do that, then that could help, show that they are using the money. Because I go there every day, well, pretty much every day, and I know they're using it because we go on field trips sometimes, and you need money for field trips, or like for cheer. I know they paid for my cheer stuff, so like it's going towards the kids, to help them. So I don't think 50% is the best like option. I think maybe 20 or something, but maybe, and like you guys said, yeah, maybe if they come and show what they're using the money for, how it's helping, some statistics, how many kids coming, maybe that could help, make it less. I just don't think that's the best option.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much.
Other comments from those present here this evening?
Your Honor,
Yes, Councilman?
I don't want the community to think that we're a bunch of Grinches by cutting the ALCC 50%. I can't speak for the city manager, but I think the reason why he recommended 50% was to get the attention of the board, who has, in our opinion, not necessarily been very effective in communicating what they've been doing and how they're doing it. And when you cut somebody's budget by 50%, well, I'll put it to you this way. I speak my mind. Sometimes I get in trouble. When we had the strategic planning sessions 2 years ago, the mayor and the entire council was at ALCC on a Saturday devoting our time. I'll have to ask Kelly, but my understanding was there was only 3 board members from ALCC that came to the strategic planning sessions. And the strategic planning session was for them, not for us. And that gave the council, and some of the council members are now gone, that gave us an impression that their board didn't even care enough to sit down with us on a Saturday session, which was hosted by the city manager, brought in a professor from EMU who did strategic planning to facilitate the session. So we had only 2 or 3 board members. One of them was Kelly, who serves as a dual role. But everybody from council was there. So that sent a message, I know to me, that if their board wasn't willing to come and sit down and talk to us strategically about where they needed to go, then maybe they didn't need to have taxpayer funding. And that's the message that I think the city manager sent to them. Now, tonight, at the workshop, quite a few of their board members were here. So I think we got their attention. But I don't want the community to think that that the city council is trying to be bad and cut ALCC because they're not worth any. They provide a great service to the community. But the issue is, their board has to be a little bit more transparent and a lot more accountable in terms of how they're going to deliver service and how they're going to start looking at going out and getting other foundation and nonprofit, and like the mayor said, other partnerships with other agencies to supplement the decrease that's going to happen based on what everybody in the city is going through. So just want the community to understand that there's a lot of background behind the recommendation for cutting the 50%. A lot of it was to get their attention, get the board's attention, not the community's, but the board of directors' attention. And I think that was achieved, what I saw tonight at the workshop. Kelly, did I misspeak in terms of the board that were there at the strategic planning meeting?
I think we have the board's full attention.
Thank you. So I just want the community to understand.
Your Honor, I think we have the board's full attention, and we should see some immediate improvement and reporting to the city council.
That's great.
Other comments from those present here this evening?
Thank you. Your Honor,
Seeing none, the motion is in order.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Support.
Motion by Councilman Michaelangelos, supported by Councilwoman Vining to adjourn. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Germaine?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Michaelangelos?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes.